Okay, it's the second Node.js Testing Working Group meeting. Present today we have Alexis Campaya, we have Joe Rice. Is it Reese or Rice?
Reis.
Okay, I'll mangle it, but I'll do the best I can. Miles Borens, and I'm Rich Trott. So why don't we start with the stand-up, and we can probably just go in the order in the document. So Xiao, you're up first.
The only thing I've been doing recently was adding Visual C++ build tools to CI. I just completed that 1 hour ago, and yeah, so now we have one more compiler in CI.
All right, one more compiler in CI! Exclamation point. Alexis, do you have anything you want to talk about?
I don't think I've done anything related to testing. I'm sorry.
All right, Miles, do you have anything?
I've been continuing the work on Canary in the Goldmine, adding more bits into it. We had this week the first instance that the smoke testing actually found a regression that landed on master, so that was fun. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, first instance of SIGIM finding a regression landing on master this week. Woot woot. Okay, and yeah, and of course you've been wrestling with that REPL test.
Yeah, and apparently
one.
there's another regression that's on V4 as well with TLS, but that's kind of tangential to the testing working group.
All right, cool. Okay, so I've been, I guess right now I'm working on, there are a bunch of tests that used to be flaky, like 3 or 4 of them that used to be flaky and they were fixed. And then all of a sudden, all at once, all of them became flaky on Raspberry Pis again. So I'm focusing right now specifically on test dgram ping pong flakiness on Raspberry Pi. I wish there was like a better way to deal with these issues than picking off one little test at a time. But hopefully, figuring out what's up with that will inform what's up with all the other tests. Okay, great. Let's talk about agenda. The agenda items. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda items? We have the draft documents. We have the single stress test testing of parallel tests in parallel that Santi proposed. That we probably can't talk too much without him, but we can try. CI results search automation we can talk about without Santi, but he wrote the proof of concept, so I don't know. And there's a bunch of flaky test stuff to talk about. Is there anything else we want to talk about today?
I want to bring up that there are a lot of skipped tests, so maybe we can talk briefly about that.
So you're talking about like a test that detects that it's on AIX and says don't run. It skipped in the tap output, or skipped because it's marked flaky?
Skipped in the tap output. Yes, an explicit skip for various reasons. And yeah, I don't think we have a way that we're keeping track of those, and some of them might be worthwhile re-enabling or like figuring out what it would take to enable.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we have the draft documents. I imagine nobody's looked at them in a while, but I would. My gut tells me that we probably want to have 3 or 4 meetings before we do anything official-ish with the draft documents, like ask to be chartered or something, and especially if we can have something concrete to show. So my feeling is leave this on the agenda and just gently ask everybody, including myself, to review the documents once in a while and maybe try to expand them a little bit here and there.
Yes, I thought the documents looked good for the first iteration. we could merge them like this, or we can keep the PR open.
Okay. Any other comments, or shall we move on?
Well, right now we don't have much on the README. So
On the wiki?
on the README.
On the README. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I will land even the initial draft. I can always open new PRs to keep updating.
All right. So Alexis proposes landing at least the README and perhaps the whole PR, just to have some material in the repo. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any reason why we can't do that. Okay. Does anybody want to talk about the single stress testing of parallel tests in parallel, or should we table that until Santi's back to talk about it?
I like to ask something, and perhaps you know about it. In the script that Santiago posted in the issue, he copies the test a number of times and then uses the test runner to run specifying the test prefix and then an asterisk. When I tried the test runner some time ago, perhaps my mistake, but I think if you add the .js at the end, it will not run the test. And so that script is, I'm not sure that it works. I haven't tried it. Do you know about that?
Offhand, I don't know. Does anybody know? Alexis, maybe?
No, the script, I don't see a JS there in the script. But I wouldn't know. I haven't tried running the script.
It has an asterisk, so it will include the JS. Because when I started the single test stress test, I tried something like this and I couldn't make it work at the time. I didn't spend much time with it, but at the time I couldn't. If Santiago wants to try this, he can clone the single test job in Jenkins and perhaps try the script.
Do you even need to copy the test to run it in parallel?
That's the best way, so that it doesn't change what is already there before doing this. And we could even have two jobs for stress testing.
So if you run multiple tests in parallel, you don't copy anything, right? It's just for the. If you want to run the same test in parallel, you would have to copy it.
Yes. Yes, the current job already supports running different tests. Not in parallel, I think, but supports multiple tests. To do the same, he has to copy, and that's why I say copy the job to in Jenkins to play with it and try to change it.
Okay, makes sense. So, well, I guess we're saying if Santiago wants to experiment with this, does he have access to CI? I don't think so.
I don't think he does.
He is a collaborator. Can't he create?
No, he's not. He's not a collaborator yet.
Was he in the latest nomination round?
Yes. I think Johan chimed in with vigorous plus 100s for his nomination. But the onboarding process is the bottleneck. It's really just hopefully a couple other people will be able to participate in onboarding soon. But right now it's pretty much just Jeremiah who is responsible for a lot of things.
I can step up and help with that if Jeremiah is open to it.
I think Evan and Colin, volunteered in the thread. You might want to hop on that nomination thread and just chime in. I mean, I don't know if if they expect that people who do onboarding will be CTC or TSC members, but one way to find out is to say I'd like to do it. Is that
Yeah, well, I think what is it? Colin is not on the CTC yet. He was nominated, right? But
no, Colin is on the CTC. Evan is not.
Evan, that's what I was
he's
thinking.
Nominated, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, becoming a collaborator doesn't give you access to Jenkins automatically.
Yeah, I don't think I have access to the jobs on Jenkins to modify them. Miles does, but I don't think I do, and I think I'm actually like technically on the build team for something like that through some weird technical machinations.
Yeah, for security concerns, access to the infrastructure is even more restricted. We talked before about expanding access to Jenkins. Rod had some concerns about access to release machines, and we were trying to separate the access to the release machines so that we can give more collaborators access to Jenkins. I don't know what the status is, but we could ping the build team about that, because it would be good to have more people from the testing group mess with Jenkins.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, and there's no reason we can't ask for special dispensation for Santi or whoever if they have a legitimate business need to, access Jenkins for this sort of thing, I imagine. The worst that can happen is the build group can say no.
So for what it's worth, I was given access because I was working on Sitcom, and it was like, hey, I'm going to work on some stuff that we want to do in CI, and I was given access. So
yeah, we can just open an issue on the build report and say, give access to Santi email, and then if there are any blocking things to be worked out, we can take it from there.
Okay, so before we do any of that, I or someone else will check with I'll check with Santi to make sure that he is comfortable with Jenkins and would want to do that and has time to do that, and because there's no point in asking for access if he's swamped with other things and really isn't going to get to it or something. So I'll check with him, and then I guess we'll talk to the build folks and see what happens. Like I said, the worst that can happen is they say no. Okay, so unless there's more to talk about there, maybe we should talk about the automation for searching stuff. I don't know if anybody looked at Santi's proof of concept. I looked at it and actually submitted a pull request, but did anybody get a chance to look at it?
Which one is the pull request?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there a pull request somewhere?
So Santi, I think, commented in the issue itself with a repo in his own, under his own GitHub username, and yeah, that has the proof of concept code. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, I thought he did. No, I'm not. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's here. Let me copy the link address here, and I'll paste it into the chat here if I can figure out how to do that. Actually, I'll just paste it into the Google Docs since that's where I'm typing everything anyway.
So this lets you retrieve failing tests from one test run.
Yeah, it's just a proof of concept. Obviously, it would need a lot of work on flexibility and configuration and that sort of thing. And I submitted a pull request to make it testable because we are the testing working group. Yeah. So anyway, something to look at.
Seems like it's work in progress. It doesn't give you the ability to find out if a particular test failed before or when it failed, right?
Right, and I don't think it it would be great if it could identify failures that are not test failures, that are build bot failures and things like that, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it doesn't have a search thing. It just does reporting. You just give it a job number, and it tells you all the tests that failed on all the platforms in that job. And actually, it doesn't work right now because it depends on the CI infrastructure being public, and right now, because the SSL stuff has not been, the OpenSSL patch has not been released for the next node security release. The CI, as everybody here knows, probably is closed off until that happens. So it's kind of stalled until then, anyway.
So in terms of approach, do we think that the REST API is the best way of doing this, or are there alternative approaches?
Is he using the REST API? I think he is. Look. Yeah, he's using the API. I guess my only concern is, and I don't know if I have no idea if this is actually going to be a problem or not, but it seems to me that certain, I think we talked about this last time, that sometimes there seems to be certain repeatable things you can do in the Jenkins interface that kind of just locks it up for everyone. Like I think Zhao mentioned that the tap plugin is slow or something like that, and I would want to be careful that this thing does not do that, because that would make me sad.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of polling for test results, right? Ideally, when the job completes, Jenkins would dump the tab file somewhere onto a different service that would ingest that.
Yeah, that would be
into maybe a database or something, and then be able to answer queries.
Maybe that can be V2.
Yeah.
All right, so unless there's more to say, maybe we'll just pick this back up when Santi is. Well, ideally, let me just get Alexa's last comment in there. Ideally, there would be a place that Jenkins put tap results after a test run, a database, file, something that this job could then this access. Okay, well, let's go with that. Let's see, my microphone's on, right? Yes, good. Okay, everyone can hear me. Yay. Let's talk about Flaky Tests, which there's quite a few more now that than in this issue number 11. I don't know if we really want to go through all of these one by one at this time, but if any of them leap out for anyone, there's two that I would like to talk about. I would like to just mention the test tick processor, which is the first one there. And I would also like to talk about the test dgram ping pong, which is the one that I mentioned earlier in the meeting. Are there any others we want to talk about? Anybody? Going once. Going twice. Okay, so test tick processor. I forget if Zhao said that he was going to look at this one or not. But it's it's flaky on Windows, and it involves the V8 profiler, and there's a lot of non-determinism in the test. And I don't know what to do about that, especially because I don't fully understand the profiler. So actually, that might, if I want to make any headway on this, I guess that might be step one. But it's I guess I'm just verbalizing some concern that this might be flaky for a very, very long time, perhaps forever, and I guess I don't know what resources could be brought to bear to maybe change that. I know that Matthew Loring has looked at it here and there, but you know, he's a busy V8 engineer who probably has a lot of other more high priority things than figuring out why this one thing fails once in a while on Windows. So anyway, I wanted to bring this up, and I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or comments on it.
Well, we discussed before the meta issue of how to get traction on these flaky tests. How do we motivate collaborators to go and fix them? Is that something that we could try to make a proposal?
I think that's a great idea. I think maybe I ought to make that at an agenda item for the next meeting and kind of make it the very first thing we talk about or something, because I think that
there might even be an issue already open about it with some suggestions.
Yeah, or it might be in your Wiki document.
It's probably in the build repo. No, I can't find it. I must have dreamt of it. Okay, I'll see. I'll see if I can find it. If not, I'll create one and tag it for the next week. The basic idea is to make a proposal to change some of the collaborator workflow so that we make the whole collaborators team accountable for flaky tests at some point. Like if a test stays flaky for too long, then we freeze pull request until the test is fixed or something like this, or before a release.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you've definitely written that before. And
I remember writing it down. I don't know what it is.
It might be, again. It might be in the Flaky Tests wiki page. Let me see. Let's see here.
It was an issue where I was suggesting.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll try to find it later and tag you.
Yeah, that's a really difficult issue, but I think it's basically the crux of everything. Because I mean, yeah, bringing resources to bear so that we're not spending the rest of our lives playing whack-a-mole and having more tests become flaky faster than we can fix them.
Yes, we need to make more people accountable for them.
Yeah, especially because I feel like we've probably fixed most or all of the easy ones. So really, as flaky tests emerge, they're probably going to be more and more difficult to resolve, and therefore, we're going to need the right people working on them and focusing on them. Okay, great. Let me make sure I have the notes. Yeah, I do. Okay. So that kind of segues nicely into the next issue, which is revising the Flaky Tests wiki page, because it's pretty out of date. I think if I recall correctly, I think it assumes we're still using Node accept pull request and things like that. On the other hand, I don't know that anybody's actually reading it, so I don't know. Is this something we should? It's a document we want to. I mean, I guess it's a wiki. I guess anybody who wants to improve it can just dive in and do so. But is anybody particularly motivated about it? I feel like I am, but I haven't done anything about it.
You mean to update it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it probably is not really worth updating until we resolve the issue of how to get people motivated to fix the tests, because that's, like, I don't know. I put it on the agenda because I came across it and I was like, oh, this would actually be useful. This is great, but, like, if someone who doesn't know how things work reads that document, they're going to be misinformed because, it was true. It's a wiki page. It was true 8 or 10 months ago. It's not true right now. That kind of thing.
I was I wrote the page and I made a wiki page just so that we could update it, as we go. So definitely feel free to update it, and it should be somewhat part of the collaborator onboarding guide, right?
Ooh, I like that idea. Yes. Okay. So.
By the way, I found that issue about Flaky Tests that I was talking about.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I cannot write into the document.
Let's see here. You are let me see.
I can put in the Hangout chat. It's currently closed.
Here it is. Okay. So let me get that in the doc here. So I'm going to just change all of that. Whoops. To ref. Okay, there we go. Okay, great. Okay, yeah, let's definitely read this over, and maybe I'll open an issue for it, or someone else can open an issue for it in the testing repo, and we can kick ideas back and forth and talk about it the next meeting if we need to. But oh, and it has the wiki page for it. Yeah, calls for opening an issue to track them, et cetera, et cetera. Super.
Yeah, we should revive that proposal.
Yeah, it's good to have a starting point, though. It's so much easier than trying to come up with something from nothing. Okay, should we move on to skipped tests? Alexis, your concern was that we don't track them, and perhaps we ought to.
Yes, this is a note that I have had for some time, because I remember seeing some Windows tests that were being skipped just because the test wasn't reliable on Windows or things like that. Some are for unimplemented features, some are for because of flakiness, some are I don't even know why they are skipped.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are situations where it's completely legitimate to skip a test. Windows obviously and POSIX do not have parity on everything, and so sometimes you're testing a feature that's only available on one or the other. But yeah, it would be. This is a great point that we certainly would want to differentiate between tests that are being skipped for legitimate reasons like that and tests that are being skipped because, oh, it's flaky on, whatever, OS X or something.
Right. I had a concern that some were illegitimately skipped. So I guess we would have to go through the list of skip tests and kind of try to figure out why they were skipped and classify the legit ones from the maybe not so legit ones.
Yeah, that's going to be, and unfortunately, the list of skipped tests is not really, like the list of tests that are marked flaky, those are just in, test/star/star.status.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's easy to come up with a finite list of, here are all the tests that are marked flaky, but, coming up with all the tests that are skipped, well, I guess you can just grep through all the tests for the string that is the tap string for a skipped test, and that would find them.
Yeah, you can grab a look at the test source, which is not a great system, right, to keep track of them. Well, in the test runner, like we can mark tests as flaky, we can also skip tests.
Right. There are situations where tests might be. Well, yeah, I was thinking this through. Tests might be skippable, but it wouldn't be skipped in CI. But in those cases, it's probably always going to be something legitimate. For example, like you don't have crypto compiled in, or something like that.
Right,
so,
that was a frequent one I saw.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be a better system to have the skips in the status file, or in a centralized place where there can be.
Yeah, the problem with having them in the status file is that a lot of times in order to determine if the test can be run or not, might require a runtime check.
True. Some of them just say if platform equals Windows, though, which we definitely have the ability to check in the status file.
That's true, and maybe as a first pass, those would be the ones we should look at anyway. Okay. Yeah, this is a tricky issue, but it's a good one. We would need to go through the list of tests and figure out which ones are being skipped for not so great reasons. And then what do we do with them? I guess, I don't know, we fix the test, hopefully. Okay.
But at some point I plan to get to this. I just wanted to bring it up to this group in case somebody's motivated to make more progress on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess moving the skips that can be expressed in terms of status files to the status files would be one step towards classifying them better, though we still need to go and review why the skip and put some comments there or something.
Okay, so maybe move the skips that can be moved to the status file, that is skips based on platform and not on runtime checks. Maybe just, okay, to the status file and include comments explaining why the test is skipped. Yeah, and then we'll have them all in one central place, and that'll make them easier to track and manage. Okay. Okay. Anything else on this at this time?
No, not for me. Sorry, this is a very unrefined idea at this point.
That's great. I'm happy to have it on the radar. It occurs to me that we were talking about the flaky test. We talked about test tick processor. I didn't mention test dgram ping pong, which started failing on Raspberry Pis recently again, and it looks like what's happening is that UDP packets are being dropped, which to me is not a bug because you send a bunch of UDP packets, they fire and forget. They might or might not be received, even if you're sending them to localhost. And I guess I wanted to toss it out there as get a reality check that that's not a foolish way to proceed, I guess. No. If you're sending UDP packets to localhost, there's no way those should be dropped. So this test fires 1,500 UDP messages to 3 different ports on localhost, in parallel, which everything seems to be able to handle except the Raspberry Pis, which, again, to me, like, I can see a tiny device having whatever memory buffer it has for these sorts of interactions filled up, and it just drops a UDP packet. So I altered the tests in another branch. I altered the test so that it could tolerate some dropped packets. Unfortunately, the test then completes, but then the process never exits. Something is holding the event loop open, so I have to look into what's doing that. So I guess since I'm in the middle of it, I just wanted to see if any light bulbs went off for anyone about, oh no, you should do this and that'll fix it. Okay, awesome. All right.
Sorry, it's not an easy one.
No, none of them are. Okay. That's everything on the agenda. Is there anything else we should talk about before we say our farewells?
What are you planning as the meeting cadence?
I guess we hadn't really settled on anything yet, but I was thinking shoot for about once every 3 weeks or so, something like that. Do we want to establish a cadence and just try it and see how it goes?
Once every 3 weeks sounds pretty good for me.
Yes, it's good to have a fixed schedule. And we do 3 weeks for the build working group. I think it should be adequate for this as well.
I'm okay with it too.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes here. Okay with it too. Okay, great. So that's unanimous of the people here that every 3 weeks seems to work, and this time works okay for everyone in this day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So probably what I'll do is I'll let Alexis and Zhao say whether it works for them.
It's okay for me.
Yeah, all meetings are evil, so this one is not especially evil.
Okay. So I guess what I'll do is I will set up a meeting for 3 weeks from now, and I'll try to make sure that at least 50% of the people who are in the group say they can attend. If we can't get 50%, I'll either look for another meeting time or I'll just cancel the meeting and delay it a week or something. So great. Okay. So that's meeting cadence. That was quick and easy. Anything else we want to talk about? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for your time, and let's do this again in 3 weeks.
Sure thing. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Okay. Bye. Thanks a lot.